I begin with the name of the creator. This is C.L. Edwards for the Urban Muslim Podcast. We're going to get this started off real quickly. The name of this show is Feminist Family, Debating the Feminist Family, episode number 2. This is coming off the first episode where we talked about the Moynihan report, and we talked about the different reactions politically and socially and academically to what the Moynihan report had to say. Along with that, you had the civil rights movement going on at that time. You had the Civil Rights Bill. You had the assassination of President Kennedy. You had Black Power and Black Liberation, the Black Panthers, Martin Luther King, Malcolm X. You had various different rebellions and riots. A lot of stuff was going on in the 60s, man. It was hype in the 60s. A lot of things went on in the 60s. They were active. They were active in the 60s. It's just, we could say that. We could say that. And then when we moved into the 70s, we saw a reaction to all of those different events. And like I said before, you know, different political persuasions had different takes and different approaches to how to deal with those situations. Now, we're going to focus in on one particular avenue that that society went down. And if you look at the first episode, if you haven't, go look at the first episode so you could be up on game. You could be up on game. The author of the particular article I was reading from put forward the idea that because of either wrong action or inaction, the Black community in the United States of America was severely damaged because the Black family was damaged. And all the things that we see that are associated with, you know, the inner city Black neighborhood, blah, 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 it is rooted in the destruction or the collapse or the undermining of Black marriage, marriage in the Black community, child rearing, and the overall collapse of the Black family. And I agree to a certain extent. I agree to a large extent, actually. If you just look at, man, it's just common sense, along with looking at the statistics, along with as a Muslim, I have a prophetic divine scripture that I take from as well. Some of you may be Christian, some of you may be Jewish, some of you may be atheist, but there's certain things that we could all agree on, right? Do we want poverty? Do you want children being engaged in the juvenile court systems? Do we want an increase in mental health problems? Do we want underperforming economy? I don't think anybody wants that, but that's what we got. You may not want it, but that's what you got. And a lot of it can be traced to the topics we have discussed in the first episode and we are discussing today. And there's going to be a third episode because, hey, man, it's too much information. It's too much to talk about just to contain it into 1 or 2 episodes. We got to stretch this out to 3 episodes. So we're in the middle of it. We're in the middle of the hurricane at the moment, discussing and getting into this topic. Let's go. Now, I came up with 2 concepts in the first episode, contrasted concepts, right? The feminist family and the prophetic family. You probably see it down here somewhere, like right here, right? The feminist family, the prophetic family, right? In contrast with each other. At one time, the ideal was the prophetic family, right? Now there's been a shift in the culture, a shift in society, and no longer can you say the prophetic family is the model or the ideal that people strive for. I think innately, because of their natural disposition, that's what people deep down inside, that's what they really want. But because we have been educated or indoctrinated, however you like to look at this, a lot of us are looking at the feminist family as the ideal. And what is the feminist family? What is it? The problem is like Jello. It's kind of like Play-Doh. You can't really put your finger on it. It's everything and nothing at the same time. Because if you take the family as something that's only a social construct, then you, in from that standpoint, that mindset, that worldview, then you can say to yourself, well, we could just make up another social contract. We can make up another social structure at will. So, you know, the single mom can be a family with her kids, maybe a person with dogs and cats. You know, you get a dog family or a cat family. They're just like your children. Maybe, you know, alternative sexualities together. That can be a family. Um, all types of configuration. You can just configure it how you like. You can customize it. You know, it's not one set thing any longer. It's not one ideal that everybody looks to and strives to. It's whatever you can make it. And the thing that I have observed in my lifetime, not to say that I'm an expert on anything, but what I've observed in my lifetime is sometimes too many choices can be a bad thing. I don't care what you are. You should be able to see this. You should be able to agree with this. Sometimes too many choices is a bad thing. You have so many choices, you just get stagnant. You know, it's too many combinations to put together. You end up with nothing, or you end up with a big mess. And I think that that's more of an example of what we have today, a big mess. And now we are looking to the politicians, to the presidents and the Congress people and the senates and all these different people to try to clean up this big old mess that's been created, that they helped to create in the first place. And people are asking, man, can we even recover from where we're at right now? I'm talking about the world in general, the West, to be more specific, and to be even more pinpoint, the USA, the land of North America. You can throw Canada in there also, but mainly America. And economically, we're just not doing all that great. The birth rate is super low. We're not generating a new generation of people who are going to pay taxes and work and stimulate the economy and stimulate the culture. We're bringing in all these immigrants, and then some people don't like the fact that we're bringing in all these immigrants. They see that as a problem. There's crime. Even though crime has gone down, a lot of us are looking at our front windows and looking at the news like, I don't know, is it really going down? I mean, it's some crazy stuff going on out here. It's dangerous. There's some areas, almost no-go zones. You know, not too long ago, Net Geo, they had a series called Net No-Go Zones, and of course they profiled different places all around the world. But guess what? They profiled some places right in America, the first world no-go zones. Like they had one on 7 Mile in Detroit. They called 7 Mile in Detroit a no-go zone. I was born on 7 Mile. They had places where I lived at in that video. Called them no-go zones. Man, like, is this the way things are supposed to be? Is this what we've settled for? Because we've been given this, and we've been told it's the new normal. And a lot of us, I think like I think that, hey man, this doesn't seem normal at all. And this doesn't seem like an improvement at all. You know, speaking about the black family was always a survival unit from the time black people were shipped over across the Atlantic to the slave ports, to the slave auction, to the plantation, to leaving the plantation, to being in the South under Jim Crow, to the Great Migration up north to go to Chicago, Cleveland, Detroit, New York, New Jersey, LA, Oakland, all these different places that we went. Atlanta, even though that's in the South, so many of us, they left the rural parts of the South to go to the urban city areas, right? It was always a survival unit. We always stuck together to survive in the United States under all this pressure, under the Black Holocaust that we experienced. And we were a unit. We were together. Regardless of what problems we had with the supposed white man, no matter what problems we had with each other, we stuck together. But then something drastically changed, almost like a nuclear bomb went off in the Black community. We went over that in the first episode, and we're going to go over it now. It was the reaction to everything that happened in the 60s. Moynihan made his report, and he pointed out this pathological underpinning, this lower class, what he called the ghetto, named after the book, The Dark Ghetto. That's another book that maybe we need to profile. Largely Black, underprivileged, poverty-stricken, gynocracy, meaning female-led family, increasingly single mother family, welfare, government-assisted, dependent family, out of wedlock childbirth family. See, it was low numbers at first, but each decade it got bigger, 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 to what it is now. Now, majority of Black children are born out of wedlock. And the strange thing about it is, maybe not so strange, maybe it's done on purpose, is when Black America has the flu or COVID, the rest of America is going to catch cold. See, they experiment on Black folks first. They test it out on Black folks first. It's like the movie Godfather. If you ever seen the movie Godfather, don't sit there and try to be holier than thou like you've never seen Godfather. But you notice when they came to the Godfather and they wanted to sell drugs, they wanted to sell heroin. The Godfather wasn't really down with it. And they were trying to talk him into it. And one of the characters said, not around schools. Put it in the Black area. Put it in the Negro, where the Negroes are at. Take the heroin, put it where the Negroes are at. They're animals anyway. That's what they said in the movie. Because that's how people thought. And that's how a lot of people still think to this day. So you experiment on the Black people, and then when you perfect the social engineering on the Black people, then you use it on the rest of the population. So if you think that you're just out in the suburbs, you're detached from the culture, you're doing your own thing, the problems that go on in Southside Chicago, the problems in Detroit, the problems in Baltimore, the problems in the Bronx, the problems in the west side of Atlanta, those aren't your problems. If they haven't already arrived where you live at, they're coming soon. And you can pack up and try to move, but at a certain point, you're going to run out of places to move to. White flight, it can only happen. You did white flight already. How many times can you do it before you run out of places? This thing, you're going to be in the sea. You're going to be in the Atlantic Ocean somewhere. Then what? You can't, at a certain point, you're not going to be able to run from this. Is that the point where America collapses? Food for thought. So, like I said, the social engineering was first ironed out on Black people. Eventually, they saw that it worked. So, and then it moves on to the other poor and the other working class. And the vehicle, how they disseminate this social change, this social engineering is the same old usual suspects. It's the media of all types: television, news, music videos, sitcoms, movies, talk shows. They used all these different mediums to push that, to change the thinking of the culture. That, there's nothing unusual about having a child out of wedlock. There's nothing unusual about becoming a mother or father without being married. There's nothing unusual about a home full of children with just a mother in it, no father. My own mother, I've sat down and had conversations with my own dear mother about this, and I remember she told me there was one family back in the 70s on their block. This is the east side of Detroit, East 7 Mile. One family that didn't have a father, and she remember how her and her friends thought it was so weird and strange. Like, where's your daddy at? Where's your father? Where's your Abu? Where's he at? Why don't you guys have a father? Because everybody had a father and a mother. Fast forward just one generation. Now, my generation comes, divorce skyrockets because now you have no fault divorce. You have the influence of feminism in the academic sphere, in the colleges, and it trickles down everywhere else. Now, to have a father in the house in some neighborhoods, in that same neighborhood where my mother lived at, that same exact neighborhood, to have a two-parent father-led home, which is the prophetic patriarchy mode, that's unusual now. That's weird. Like, you a weirdo. Why your daddy live with you? You a weirdo. You're strange. How does your father still live with you? Is that your stepfather? That's actually your actual biological father? He lives with you? Now, kid, you got a whole generation of kids who think that's strange now. How far we have fallen, or how far have we come out, depending on how you look at it. Now, there's a hierarchy of the social change, like I just pointed out. See, it starts in academia. All this stuff starts with academia. Now, the government and corporations, they fund this quote unquote research. But you have these academics. They come up with these theories and these hypotheses and all these different things. And they come up with this stuff. And of course, it's taught to students. Usually their ideas and their peer-reviewed papers and all this other stuff, it gets watered down into popular books. So it usually ends up in some type of popular book. It comes out on the scene. It's controversial. All the news channels and the talk show hosts want to talk about it. They want to profile the person. They want to give interviews. They want to debate about it. And through all this coverage and all this hype, it's just being broadcasted and disseminated to the public. Then it winds up in the lower level talk shows. So you might have a higher level talk show, like back in the days you had Oprah, but then it gets down at the Jerry Springer, and then you go down in the mud. And then from there, it finds its way into movies. It finds its way into TV shows and series. It finds its way on Netflix. So you're really in a vulnerable place, especially the children. Because I can remember an incident. Now, some of you might be too young to remember this. I remember this also clearly. There used to be a show back in the 90s called Murphy Brown. Murphy Brown. Hold on. Give me a second. Because some of you may not know, some of you may have forgotten. Y'all don't know about no Murphy Brown. Y'all don't know about no Murphy Brown. Share screen. Check this out. Murphy Brown was a show back in the 90s. Candice Bergen, she played the role of Murphy Brown. Now, Murphy Brown was a middle-aged career woman, newscaster, journalist. She went through like alcoholism, So and then she came, but she kind of made a comeback. She made a comeback. She got back on air, and she was, she was known to be witty, hard nosed, take no prisoners type of woman, career woman, the feminist dream, the dream of the feminist white woman. And at one point in the show, in around 92, Murphy Brown gets pregnant by her ex-husband, right? She gets pregnant by her ex-husband, and the ex-husband doesn't want to have anything to do with her. He doesn't want to have a child. He's doing his own thing. Murphy Brown then decides that she wants to continue with the pregnancy and still have the child, right? And then when she gets to the end of the pregnancy, she's having a child. Of course, no daddy around. The daddy's not around. She's in the hospital by herself. She makes a comment, if I can remember, she makes a comment like, the Christian Broadcasting Network, half of Utah doesn't want me having this baby, alluding to the Christians. So the Christians don't want me having this baby. That was supposed to be a funny line that she had. And then when she has the child and she's holding the child in her hand as a single mom, she sings the song, "You Make Me Feel Like a Woman." You make me feel, you make me feel, you make me feel like a natural woman. Round of applause, people. My MP3 is coming out next week. You can purchase it. I know you like that singing. But back to the serious topic. So she says, she sings the song, "You Make," and that's all just feminist propaganda in the form of a sitcom, a TV show. Now, Dan Quayle, Vice President Dan Quayle, he makes a statement about this in 92 in like some type of meeting, prayer breakfast or something like that. I can't remember what it was. And he makes it about the media making single motherhood normal. And then he talks about the importance of a father being in the home, right? And all the feminists get angry and mad about this. And so the writers of the Murphy Brown show, hey, they decide to capitalize on all this controversy. So they write the whole situation into the show. So Murphy Brown has a show. I can remember being a little CL. I remember watching this back in 92. I wasn't that little. I was in middle school. But I remember watching that episode, and she came out and she spoke against Dan Quayle and all these conservative, angry Christians. And, that she talked about how her motherhood was just as, the mother is just as worthy as a father. You don't need two parents. And she had the feminist family on display. So she on stage, she had all different types of families. Of course, up front, she had some black folks, because that's what they do when they want to sell pathology to America. They find some black folks to sell it. They experiment on the black people and they use the black struggle for liberation to piggyback on it to push their liberal agendas and whatever they got going on. So she had all these different types of families and whatnot, and it was supposed to be a heartwarming moment. I remember as a young man not knowing any better, not knowing what I know now, being raised in a single parent home, highly super duper 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 Democrat. And I'm not Republican or Democrat, but let's keep it real. Black people vote 90% Democrat. I remember thinking, yeah, Murphy Brown's right. These white men, these white dudes, these conservative Republican Christian dudes, they just want to, they don't want to recognize families like my family, because I came from a single family. So this is how they get you. This is why they use media, because media bypasses the mind a lot of times, and you're going straight into the emotions. It taps into those emotions. The artists, the creatives are able to tap into the emotion. And that's what that scene did. It tapped into the emotion of America, where America was like, it's time that we stop putting single mothers down. It's time that we stop putting alternative family units into a box and acting like the only legitimate form of family a a two-parent, male, female, father, mother, nuclear family. That's not the only family. There are other types of families also. Boom, I got you. That's where they got you. So all these feminist ideas that were in academia and been written about in the 70s into the 80s, now it hit, and then it went into the black community. After they experimented on the black community and perfected it, now they use the media to give it to the rest of America. Everybody catches the cold. Everybody gets COVID. Everybody catches it. You all get it. Now we're at where we're at in 2023. We've gone beyond that. Now we've got all types of, anything can be a family. Literally anything can be a family. But is it actually good for us? Is it good for us as individuals? Is it good for us, our communities? Is it good for us as a nation? Is it good for us as a humanity? Because these people they're not going to settle for just spreading this amongst their own country. Now they want to spread it across the world. They tie it in with charity. Oh, you want some charity? You have to adopt these things. You have to bring in birth control. You got to bring in abortion. You got to bring in alternative sexuality rights. You got to do this. You got to do that. Yeah, we'll help you. We'll give you a international monetary fund belong to your starving third world country, but there's strings attached to it. You got to accept our universal principles, our liberal universal principles that we have declared and decided are not necessarily, they're not just social constructs. That's like the duality, the contradictions. They claim these things are just social. They're just social constructs. But then they take Eurocentric social constructs and universalize them to all of humanity, where every other civilization, every other people group, ethnicity, every other religion, you better submit and adopt these things or else. Yeah, putting strings attached to loans to countries, that's one way, economic warfare. Then there's just regular old plain old world warfare, where we bring out the tomahawk missiles, the troops, the tanks, the satellite controlled guns and whatnot, drones. That's a whole nother thing. We're not going to go all the way down that rabbit hole, but I want you to get that point. I want you to get that point. Now, Murphy Brown, right? All different types of movies. Remember the movie Are We There Yet? With Ice Cube. My man Ice Cube. My brother Ice Cube. Ice Cube is a Muslim. Assalamu alaikum, brother. Now, Ice Cube, he was just making a good movie. But you remember, if you look past all the heartwarming goodness, the story is about a single mom with two kids. You got Ice Cube. He's a single father. He's not a single father. He's single and he's an entrepreneur, but he's kind of like he's made like a boy. He's into baseball, the baseball cards, and the whole premise of the movie is, you have this woman he wants to get with, but she's a grown up. She's an adult. She has two kids she has to take care of. She's a single mom, and he needs to step up. It was a lot of simping in that. Ice Cube, man, you was doing a lot of sipping in that movie, man. You was doing a lot of sipping in that movie, boy. He did a lot of sipping in that movie. And so he went through all these things because I did give away the movie, but he basically tries to endear himself to the single mother and to her kids. He's rejected by the kids, but by the time the end of the movie comes, he's won over the kids. He's won over the mom, and now they're one big blended stepdaddy led family. So that's a part of the new feminist family, the stepdaddy family. So you got the single mama family, the stepdaddy family, the alternative sexuality family. These are the three configurations of the feminist family model. It's very rare to see a kid with their biological dad. And We all know from experience that as a child, your first hero in life is your daddy, your Abi, your father, Pops. That's your first hero. Man, I can remember being a little boy. Man, I thought my father literally was the strongest human being on earth. I thought my father was the strongest man on earth. I thought my father could whoop anybody. I thought, man, Ice-T had nothing on my father. You know, the Incredible Hulk had nothing on my father. In fact, I remember I had a dream. I was 5 years old. I used to be afraid of the boogeyman, right? I used to think the boogeyman was under my bed. I thought the boogeyman was in my closet. And I had a dream about the boogeyman. And I was hollering and screaming, "Daddy, help me." And my father burst into the room. He grabbed the boogeyman. He put hands on the boogeyman. My dad put hands on the boogeyman. He whooped the boogeyman down. Man, I woke up from that dream a little frightened, but still safe and secure. That knew my daddy was in the house. My father, he was in the house. He was there to protect me. But then my parents got divorced. Then they got divorced. And I know all the problems that I experienced as a young black male, watching my parents divorce each other and then having to grow up in a single parent home. All that Murphy Brown glamour doesn't accord with reality. Let me spit that again. All that Murphy Brown type Hollywood produced, all that academia, feminist theory stuff, that ain't reality. That's not reality for the vast majority of women, for their children, or for the communities out here. The majority or a high percentage of single moms are living in poverty or barely making it week to week or month to month. I would dare to say the vast majority. I can safely say the vast majority of single mom led households, they're living paycheck to paycheck, month to month. You struggle to work, you struggle, you get those two checks. If you make it to pay off the rent, you make it to pay off the car note, you make it to pay off the insurance and get some food in the house. Hopefully nothing bad happens. You don't get a flat tire, or somebody gets sick. Hopefully nothing bad happens, and you just make it to the end of the month, and then you got to start the struggle all over again. But when you look at the same statistics, it shows that even among black people, even in the hood, a two-parent family experiences poverty at a much smaller rate. I think it's like only 9%, like 9 to 10% of two-parent families are in poverty. It's crazy. Now, another person who spoke on all this was the darling of even the liberal American, Barack Hussein Obama. Barack Hussein. Forget the Obama part. Barack Hussein, former president of the United States of America. He spoke on the issue of the absence of fathers. He spoke on it. Now, is he a misogynist? Is he some radical, Islamist? Is he some radical Christian dude, right-wing, conservative, white man, patriarchy guy? I don't think so. I'll say no. No. Listen to what Barack says. This is a quote from Barack. Of all the rocks upon which we build our lives, we are reminded today that family is the most important. That's a bar. And we are called to recognize and honor how critical every father is to that foundation. That's another bar. But if we are honest with ourselves, we'll admit that what too many fathers also are missing from too many lives and too many homes. And you and I know how true this is in the African American community. We know that more than half of all black children live in a single parent households, a number that has doubled since we were children. The foundation of our communities are weaker because of it. That's true. All of that is true, except for the part where he lays the blame at fathers. See, because that was a trope that was sold during the 80s and the 90s, that the reason there was all this single parenthood in the black community was because of evil men. You know, these evil black men who were running away from responsibility, running away from their children, on the down low, smoking crack, in prison. Yes, that is a reality. That was a reality. That is a reality. It happens. But the reality is, if you check the statistics, the majority of black men don't even have children. So the whole trope, stereotype of black men not taking care of their kids is a damn lie. It's a damn lie. More than half of black men have no children. Majority of black men aren't married. They don't have children. And another study was released by the CDC that said black men were the most attentive fathers of any ethnic group. So, you, the listener, may be saying, if you didn't know about these statistics, well, how do we have all these single moms? How do we have all these kids born out of wedlock? Because the feminist family model was shoved down the throats of our women. Because the community, the black community, was sold on the feminist family model. It came attached with benefits. So when welfare and government assistance was rolled out, all that good stuff, that WIC, all the rental assistance, health care, all these different things, you roll that out to a community of people where there's a large amount of poverty, or people just living check to check, but you say to them, there's one string attached. Remember, we talked about a few minutes ago, on an international scale, right? America says to other nations, oh, you want to borrow some money? There's some strings attached to that. You got to do this, 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 and you can't do this, you can't do this, you can't do that. Domestically, when it came to the minority, when it came to the Indian, American Native, when it came to the African American, when it came to even some Latino communities and some poor white communities, what was said, but overwhelmingly, it devastated the black community. What they said is, okay, you want this government assistance, there can't be a man in the house. You want this aid for women and family, the women and children, can't be a man in the house. You can't be married and get this aid. You can't be married and get this aid. So what do? Do you struggle in the white man's world with your husband, or do you do it on your own? Get some welfare assistance, get money to go back to college, build your own life. See, now you incentivize the feminist family model, where now the prophetic patriarchy looks like something of a bygone era. It doesn't even seem practical any longer in many people's eyes. It doesn't even seem realistic, even though it's something that was come from the Creator. It's part of nature. It's a part of nature. It's your natural disposition. But we live in this weird society that is almost like it's opposed to the natural disposition that you have. You just want to eat good organic food, and they tell you, no, you can't eat good organic food. You're going to eat this, meat glue. You're going to eat this mummified Frankenstein meat put together with meat glue. That's what you're going to eat. That's what you're going to eat. I just want some clean water. I just want a glass of just clean spring water. No, you're not. You can't. You got to get this water with fluoride and lead in it. This is what you're going to get. Or you can pay for some purified water. You can pay extra for this purified water. So this is the type of capitalistic system we live in, where everything is monetized. So even the feminist family model was monetized. Maybe if they monetized the prophetic patriarchy, we will see more prophetic patriarchy. But they didn't monetize that. They monetized the feminist family model. And now this is what we got. Whole entire hordes of children born without their fathers being there. Born without their family, their fathers in the household. When, like Barack Hussein Obama said, if we are honest with ourselves, we'll admit that but too many fathers are missing from too many lives and too many homes. You and I know how true it is, the African American community. And we are called to recognize and honor how critical every father is to that foundation of the family. Look at that. Percentage pregnant as teens, females. We already know about the female pregnancy thing. But look at the bars. So the blue is intact, meaning male, female. The yellow is single motherhood. Now the white side is up there. It's up there. It's double sense, but the black side is even worse. And look, the intact has gone down for the white. And I don't know what we're going to do. And one of the outcomes of not having a father in the home, which I saw with my own two eyes many a time, is the lack of structure. The lack of structure. The lack of order, because this is what men bring to the home. Structure, order, discipline, which helps the child to grow up to be a functional adult. So because you have these working moms, you know, even like my dear mom, who I love with all my heart, but my mother, when I got home from school, nobody was there. I was a latchkey kid. That was another catchphrase from back in the days. Latchkey kids. That's you had a string or a necklace around your neck with a key on it, so you can let yourself in the house. Nobody's there to make you lunch. You're not going to eat dinner till 7 o'clock, maybe 8 o'clock sometimes if mom has to work super, super late. And there's nobody to watch you. So you can invite your friends over. You can go outside, get into anything you want to get into. Yeah, that's how I got into a lot of stuff I wasn't supposed to get into because there was no adult supervision. And it was a neighborhood of boys just like me with no adult supervision. So we got into a bunch of trouble and we made trouble. And that's what's happening in the so-called hood. You got a bunch of boys and girls, no adult supervision in households with no order, no structure, no consistent, correct discipline. Because if we're going to tell the truth and shame the devil, in a lot of these feminist family modeled households, not only do you not have structure, you either lack discipline because the mom, she wants to nurture. That's her nature. She wants to nurture the kids. She doesn't want to yell at them. She want to whip them. She don't want to put them on punish. She wants to nurture them so the kids get spoiled. Or she's forced to discipline, but it's always a reaction. It's never proactive. There's nothing in place. So it's never consistent. So 1 minute little Johnny does something or says something wrong, nothing happens. If he pushes it too far, he goes too far, then mama reacts. And usually a lot of times because mother is under so much pressure because she's working every day, 8, 9, 10, 12, 15, whoever hours, she has to pay all the bills. She still has to come home and cook and clean. She's under so much pressure that when little Johnny messes up and skips school or doesn't do homework or gets into a fight or gets suspended or whatever the case little Johnny gets into, the mom, she just goes off. She rages on the kid. Let's not pretend like that doesn't happen. Let's not pretend like that doesn't happen. Or what happens, and they don't like to talk about this either when they're pushing the feminist family model, is at a certain point, little Johnny becomes way too much for mama to handle. Remember if you ever seen the movie Boys in the Hood? The movie Boys in the Hood, the main character, he began to act up. He was too much for his mama to take care of. So the mama called daddy on the telephone. Hey, you got to come. Hey, he's going to have to come live with you. I can't handle him no more. But by that time, all types of damage has been done to the kid. You know, the father is left now. The father, if you have a good father, a functioning dad, if he can take the child, maybe he can do something with him. But at a certain age, maybe it might be too late. This is what we're doing to our kids. I mean, I'm not going to go through all the statistics. Look at the statistics for Black children in standardized testing. In fact, look at the statistics for all children in America in standardized testing, especially compared to somewhere like Germany or China or Japan. Look at it. You tell me, is this how you have successful life on an individual level? Is this how you want to raise your kids? Is this how you have a successful community? Is this how you have successful cities? Is this how you have a successful nation? You tell me. Now we're in this political correct thing where we have to sit here and pretend like all these statistics don't really exist. We have to pretend like all the stuff we saw with our own two eyes and we observed, we didn't really observe because you might hurt somebody's feelings. You don't want to hurt nobody's feelings. Like Murphy Brown, the Murphy Brown TV show I told you about. Murphy Brown gets her feelings hurt by Dan Quayle. So now she has to parade all the alternative families to show that, look, there are alternative families. So the feminists were the ones in academia who put forward all these crazy, wacky ideas about the nuclear family holding down women, and women needed to be free from the nuclear family, and her education and her career trumps children. The welfare of you're selling out the future to have a piece of the world today. Let me spit that again. You're selling out the future to have a piece of the world today. And let's not talk about, I gave you the statistic that the majority of Black men do not have children. So you have a lot of women who are having children out of wedlock with a small pool of men, a minority of men. But if the majority don't have children, so the ones that are having children are the minority. And as some people say in the manosphere, they're having children with Pookie and Ray Ray. Pookie and Ray Ray. And then you wonder why little Johnny wants to, when he turns 14 years old, he wants to be Pookie and Ray Ray. He wants to go kick it with Pookie and Ray Ray. You wonder why. We're in a bad spot. The Black community is in a bad place. America is in a bad place, and the world is in a bad place. The Western world is in a bad place. It's spreading across the world and infecting other civilizations. It's affecting the Muslim world. So, at what point do we let go of that social engineering? What point do we question the social engineering we have been indoctrinated with and look back at prophetic patriarchy? Can we have prophetic patriarchy in 2023, 2030, 2050? Can we have it in a technological age? Does having the internet and AI prohibit us in some way or stop us from having a prophetic patriarchy? That's what we'll talk about on episode 3. Thank you for tuning in. Peace.